What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my Week 6 college football power rankings here, and let's jump into it. Dropping from my rankings are the Trojans of USC after losing to Illinois, but they stay in my others receiving votes along with other Big Ten team Illinois. Obviously, Illinois is still here. I think they're my 26th best team. Mississippi State 27, Virginia 28, so on and so forth. But all these teams, Houston undefeated, Arizona State rebounding well, North Texas undefeated, Utah responded well with a good win. All these teams are very close to getting into my rankings, but I just view a few other teams a little higher than all these teams here. And those teams are going to be USF, Memphis, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Louisville for my 25 through 21. I think it's only fair to put USF back into the rankings because what they've done early in the season should be rewarding. Same for Memphis. What they've done should be rewarding. 5-0, already 1-0 in conference play. And these two teams look on a crash course to play each other probably at the end of the year for the group of five spot in the college football playoff. And Notre Dame, this team started 0-2, but they found ways to get back to 500. A dominant win in Arkansas, getting the coach fired after winning by 43 points there. And they get Boise State at home, which is not a tough game, but it is a respectable game there on that schedule from the Mountain West Conference, and they can get that game, keep turning up these wins. Teams are going to lose, so Notre Dame just has to take care of business. Pretty much has to win out, go 10-2 if this team wants to have a chance at a playoff. And in that game, it was the Jeremiah Love show, and that's what we got to see out of Notre Dame football moving forward. Michigan and Louisville both stay at their respective spots of 22 and 21. Michigan was off last week. They get Wisconsin at home this week, and I expect them to let Bryce Underwood eat in this one and just kind of destroy them late. Louisville gets a very good win at Pitt. I thought Pitt was going to be that team in the ACC sleeper team, but it's starting to look more and more like it might be Louisville. It might be Virginia. It could be Florida State. I mean, the ACC is just a crapshoot at this point because of Clemson's, just free falling off the face of the earth. And they get Virginia this week. So Louisville, Virginia, huge game there in the ACC early in conference play. 16 through 20. I don't think we're too surprised here that Florida State stays in the rankings because of their big wins that they've had over Bama. They get Miami this week, and if they can beat Miami, they're jumping right back up, probably into the top 10. If they lose to Miami, they're probably falling out of my rankings here, unless, a lot of other teams lose. But, Florida State, a tough loss in double overtime there. Castellanos looks good, but it just wasn't enough in Virginia. I mean, giving up 46 on the road, it's tough to win those games, no matter how many overtimes you go into. BYU at 19, a hard-fought win there in Colorado over Dion and company. And BYU, I just think is a team that keeps flying under the radar. No one's talking about this team. I've been high on them since the preseason. They were in my preseason top 25, and they're just still kind of floating around here. Now, teams have jumped them and whatnot because of better games they've played, but BYU keeps winning games. I expect them to win this game against West Virginia to get to 5-0. And who knows, this BYU team might be playing for a Big 12 championship if they can play their cards right here. Georgia Tech at 18 wins in overtime against Wake Forest, and they're still falling down here because this is a game they should have won a lot easier than how it played out. They get a much needed bye week to rest Haynes King and company, and it's great for Georgia Tech to be good as well in the ACC. Iowa State at 17 moves up one spot after throttling Arizona. It was great to see them keep on putting the pedal to the metal and winning as they are almost halfway through their season as they travel to Cincy this week in a very good game. Missouri at 16 takes care of a MAC team in UMass. No surprise there. Bo Pribula plays another good game as they head into their bye week. 11 through 15, and the big thing you're going to look at is Texas dropping out of my top 10 even after a bye week. Yeah, this team has not played very good football, and I just keep pretty much dropping them out of my rankings and dropping them down because some teams just are playing better than Texas. And until they have a prove it game to me, until they can really win those games that I need to see them winning, they're not a top 10 team in my eyes. Where Alabama makes the case to be a top 10 team, I have them at 12 after beating Georgia, and that means Georgia falls out of the top 10 as well, moving from 8 to 13. It was a close game for both those teams, but Georgia had a chance to win this game. A pass in the third quarter could have been a walk-in touchdown for Stockton, the pass that is, but his receiver dropped it. I think that's kind of how the story went for Georgia. It just wasn't their day in this one, but they should rebound well against Kentucky, where Alabama gets a tough challenge at home against Vandy. And Vandy, beat them last year at home. Vandy did. And Bama now gets them at home, looking for a revenge game, chip on their shoulder. And obviously, Vandy comes in at 14 for me after a huge win against Utah State. I drop them one spot just because some other teams are playing a little better. But huge game for both those programs at this point in the season. And we get to really see what Vanderbilt is made of this year. And then Texas Tech moves one spot. They were off last week. Get Houston on the road. Battle of the undefeateds there in the Big 12. Then my top 10, you got four SEC schools here. Oklahoma at six. John Mateer injury should be, something to watch out for as they play Kent State this week. Obviously they should blow the doors off Kent State, but you just never know how this offense is going to look. Texas A&M, an ugly 16-10 win against Auburn, but a win is a win, and that's why they move up one. They get Mississippi State in a huge game there. LSU goes from 3-9, losing to Ole Miss on the road. The offense yet again fails this team, and that's going to be the big story moving forward. How is this offense going to put up points? Because this defense isn't the problem here for LSU. They did everything they could against a very good Ole Miss offense. And Will Weeks and the company, or Whit Weeks, excuse me, this it's all going to rely on this defense because until Nussmeier can figure it out, it's going to be the Brian Kelly defensive show. And unfortunately, that's just not a battle I want to see here with LSU's tough schedule coming up. And then Tennessee winning on the road at Mississippi State. Huge win there for them. I don't think it was a huge win coming into the year, but what Mississippi State has done so far this year has really shown that this is going to be a very good team for the remainder of the year. And it's going to be a good win there for Tennessee because I would not be shocked if Mississippi State pulls off an upset against another SEC team, at least a ranked SEC team. And who knows, it could be Texas A&M this week, but they got to go on the road. And the team I skipped over on purpose was Penn State because Penn State, yet again, cannot win a big game in prime time. James Franklin is awful in prime time against AP top six teams. I think he's 2 in 21 or 22. It's awful. Not a good stat to be on, and not a good stat that I know. So if I know it like that, it's never a good sign. Drew Aller has not played good in any big time game. So I don't know why the narrative of Penn State is going to be this powerhouse team and they're going to run the table is there. Now they get UCLA this week. They should respond and put up 50 on UCLA, but Penn State in a big game, I'm sorry, but I just can't trust it. And that means I got to put Oregon here in my top five. And of course, Indiana and Ohio State. We got three Big Ten teams here in my top five. Ohio State stays at one, ending Washington's home winning streak of over 2.5 years. Oregon, like I said, goes on the road in the whiteout to beat Penn State in OT. And I mean, there's a case that you could put Oregon at number one in this one, but until the defending national champion loses, I got to keep them at one. Miami at three, they're off, and obviously they fall one because of Oregon's big win against Penn State. And they go to the Florida State Seminoles. And if they can get that win, who knows? It might flip-flop. Might put Miami back up at two and Oregon drops at three. But they got to take care of business first. Carson Beck's going to have a great game in this one. And then at four, Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss, oh my. Great game from Lane Kiffin and company. These are games previous few years that Lane Kiffin would lose. And maybe the tables have turned in the SEC. He can figure out a way to keep the momentum going out of their bye week. And this Ole Miss team, though, like I said, they win these big games, but they just got to figure out a way to not be this game as like their Super Bowl in a sense. And they struggle late in the year. So Ole Miss, obviously, it's a great win early for them, but can they keep momentum going here as we enter October? And same goes for Indiana. Indiana, obviously coming off a huge win against Illinois, going on the road to face Iowa, and it's always a tough environment to play. But anytime you can leave there with a victory, it's a good win. They're 5-0, 2-0 in conference play. And I mean, shoot, Indiana, they look like they're on a crash course to possibly be a team playing for a Big Ten championship. That's going to be it for week 6. Check back next week to see if your team made a cut. Till then, peace.